Hey everybody, it's Marc T, and it's time for an anime talk review. Today I will be reviewing the awesome series, The Seven Deadly Sins, Season 1. I have yet to watch through Season 2, but I have seen as far as Season 1, as well as that 4-episode, essentially OVA with some story, plot progression. Not very much, though. Season 1 was awesome. My favorite character so far is Meliodas and Gother. I really like Gother's insanely deadpan attitude towards things, but I'll get into that later. The general plot of this series is that the Seven Deadly Sins, said to be probably the greatest of all the holy knights, were eventually, I can't remember, it was eventually thought that they had betrayed the kingdom that they were protecting, and thus ran out of town, and now, well, currently, the kingdom's in disarray because it seems the holy knights have turned against their kingdom and have become some kind of gigantic evil group of people. So now we need the Seven Deadly Sins to take on the holy knights and hopefully make things all right again. Okay? Now, I will be getting into spoilers, but that's normal. And this season has been out for, I believe, a good 2 years, and we're still we're on season 2 right now. So I mean, if you haven't heard this stuff, I apologize, but there are going to be spoilers, so prepare to be spoiled. So I'm going to discuss the characters first, as I usually do in these reviews. And character numero uno is Meliodas, the young child owner of the boar hat. And yes, he is my favorite character. And yes, he has a lot of flaws, from being I don't know what the term is. He's a pervert. He feels up only Elizabeth, but he feels her up quite a few times and does very many inappropriate things towards her, and he is not really good in that regard. But beyond that, I do really like Meliodas as a character. He's very strong, he's a good leader, and I see him kind of like I see certain other characters. He gives off that feeling that, how to explain it? He gives off that feeling that you get from characters like Goku, or at least the way that characters within the series, before knowing the true extent of their abilities, look at Goku. Like, they think he's a little kid, he can't do very much, but then the instant that he snaps that facade, he shows exactly what he's made of. Although, at least as far as what I've seen so far, he really hasn't shown many good qualities of being a leader. He's usually, most of the time, a generally happy-go-lucky, semi-perverted, nice guy that loves his friends. Very much, I feel, very similar to Luffy, but he can be very serious at certain moments, and he's just that. He's a very likable kind of character. He also is a member of the Demon Clan, which, I mean, let's be perfectly honest here, folks. Throughout Season 1, we get to see Meliodas' powers, on a very small scale. We see him, catching Gilthunder's strike, and you know that any time his eyes go completely black and he gets that mark on his forehead, that he's in serious mode, and that he's not gonna, he's not gonna take any bullcrap. He's serious, he's deadly, and you don't want to mess with him. One thing I did like was from what I've seen, because again, I did not watch the series until literally a few days ago, or the first season until a few days ago, but I did see clips randomly throughout the years before I decided to actually jump into the show. And I would see him constantly using his powers, like summoning the Black Flame, or, well, like I said before, catching Gilthunder's sword. And just, I guess I always thought that it was kind of obvious that he was a member of the demons, but no one ever questioned it. And I always kind of thought that he also told the other members of the Seven Deadly Sins that he was a demon, which, again, is also not stated. So, yeah. But overall, Meliodas, very fun, likable, childlike characters. Then we jump into Elizabeth, who is, I guess, yeah, she is the female lead of the character, who, let me be honest, I'm not a big fan of the damsel in distress archetype. I like it to believe that any character can rise to the occasion and be a complete badass. And while originally the first few episodes of the series did not really impress me in regards to Elizabeth's character, it was the later episode where she goes up against Ruin that really shows her insane depth and her willingness to jump into danger despite being probably the weakest member of the Sins. And I do count her as a member of the Sins. But she also did something that you know no one else was really thinking. She took a step outside the kingdom. She was the only one proactively trying to disable the current terrible hierarchy that the Holy Knights have been making. She was trying to make things better, and despite the fact that there was a terrible rumor about the seven deadly sins that had existed for years, she still decided to jump in and go for it to try and make things right. And it was just really awesome. Also, again, as I said before, how she stood up to Sin, and how she was the one that was able to, not Sin, Rune, and how she was able to essentially disable his fantastic hypnotizing abilities. But yeah, that was really great. That, and eventually we do find out that she has healing abilities and a whole bunch of more stuff about her. And I'm looking forward to seeing how much more badass Liz moments there are going to be in the future. Beyond that, she's likable. She comes off as a very general princess, a general proactive, strong-willed, and, you know, hard-working princess. It's just, there's really nothing that plays to her strengths. 90% of the time, she's being rescued by Meliodas or Hawk or Diane or everyone, and it's just, we don't get to see much of her badassness. But I have read a bit forward in the manga, and it looks like it's going to get really interesting for her sometime soon. Moving on, let's talk about Bon. I'm not going to say the sins that they are because I'm terrible at remembering certain aspects of him, but I do know that he is greed, and that you can kind of see with, well, his powers, his ability to essentially take people's energies to make himself stronger. And Bon is, I say he's one of the only characters in the series that exemplifies the sin that he's supposed to be expressing. He is a very greedy, kind of selfish person, but he has some underlying respect for Meliodas. He has respect for him because he's probably one of the only people to ever be able to go toe-to-toe and be victorious against him. And yet, at the same time, you can see Bon's general selfishness because even his captain, even the people that he's been with for years, even his friends will not get in the way of his end goal. And I kind of like that because you need this kind of thing in group stories. You need things that create dynamics and problems. And Bond's whole greed and end goal and willing to do anything to achieve what he is aiming for is very refreshing because most of the time you tend to see groups getting along. Maybe one will like turn to the dark side or go evil for a bit, and then, you know, that's the thing. But the thing is, Bond never goes evil. He's just always in it for himself, which exemplifies the concept of his greed. And I really like that. I also really like his nunchuck weapon. I know it's a different name. I don't know what it's called, but his abilities are really cool, and he's damn strong. He's able to go toe-to-toe with Meliodas without much damage to himself. So, Bond, really cool. Next up, we got King. I like King, but I know his backstory, and King is kind of, I don't know, King was kind of, I have to get used to the character thing, because we see so many moments where King blames Bond for essentially, like, the death and destruction of the fairy forest. I'm sorry if I'm getting the name wrong. And, like, he goes straight after him, and he doesn't even try and question him. I mean, this is a guy that he's worked with for years, and, you know, he blames Bond for everything going to shit without knowing how it happened, and B, just instantly assuming Bond was the reason why everything went shit up. And I would assume that if you've worked with somebody for such a long time that you can't just jump to conclusions like that. This is someone you trust. This is your brother in arms, and instantaneously you assume that this is the reason because it's the most obvious. But after we get past that, I do start to like King. I like King's very childlike aspects. He reminds me a lot of Peter Pan. He's very kiddish, but at the same time, you never want to piss him off because he gets serious. I also like the fact that while King himself is very strong, especially with his sacred treasure, he is very weak without it. So anytime he's in a fist fight, he is not going to do well, and he will get seriously hurt. He's also very overprotective with Deanne, which I really like. I like their whole history. I like that there was one whole episode that revolved around uh, uh, King and Deanne's history as friends and how long they've actually known each other, and also the very interesting aspect of like how years seem to be minutes to people like to races like giants and fairies, where it seems like only a day or a week has passed, but in reality it's been hundreds of years, and it's just something I really like about their relationship and how it goes on. Overall, I like King. I like his abilities, and I like how strong-willed he is, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of what he can do. Also, I would really like to see him, like, you know, lift some weights, man. Then, let's jump into Dan. And Dan, I really like, too. She's probably, like, it's stated within the show that she is the strongest of the Seven Deadly Sins solely on like the physical aspect. She is huge, she is strong, and she's also downright kind, which you really don't see in the early episodes because, well, A, she's half jealous of the amount of attention that Elizabeth gets from Meliodas, and the other thing is just that, well, she hasn't seen him in years, and he's kind of ignoring her. But overall, I really like Liz as a character, and I like the fact that the reason she fell for Meliodas in the first place was the fact that he didn't see her as just a giant. He didn't see her as someone that couldn't protect herself, but, you know, maybe someone that wanted protection, because of course she was, you know, thing. Like, she may have been a giant, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't have emotions, and also it doesn't mean that she doesn't sometimes like the idea of someone having her back, because, you know, being a giant doesn't make you necessarily invincible. But overall, she's very likable, and, you know, she cares a lot about her friends, and I actually really like her sacred treasure being that giant-ass hammer that she can smash people with. Overall, I really like her, and I like the fact that by the end of the first season, she's now able to stay in a smaller human-sized form, but I like her. I like seeing what she's doing. Then, let me see. We have Gother, who I've said is my second favorite character, and maybe it's just a thing with me, but I really like straight men types of characters. I love how completely blank his expression is 100% of the time. Like, and yet because he's so emotional, he can usually tell how the other people are feeling, and yet he doesn't know how to react to that in a proper way. He's just so likable. I don't know what it is. And I also like the fact that, despite the fact that he's not the strongest member of the team, he utilizes his powers in ways that are still very helpful, from convincing a bunch of knights and guards that the Seven Deadly Sins are members of their family or their lovers, to, you know, being able to almost take down the second strongest Holy Knight Guardian with just, you know, just his powers alone. And overall, I find Gother awesome, and I can't wait to see so much more. Also, they constantly dress him up in girlish outfits, and just to say, I thought Gother was a girl actually for like from the first time I saw him to now. Well, not now. I know he's a boy, but you get my point. Gother's a good character, and I can't wait to see more. Then there's the final one that I believe I haven't missed any. The final one that's introduced by season's end, which is Merlin, who, let me just say right now, I hate Merlin's outfit right now, from like just the open shirt from the chest down to her belly button. I don't like it. I don't much care for it. But beyond that, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Arthurian lore and Camelot, and the fact that Merlin exists within this world, and like, despite the fact that she's nice. She has a nice attitude, but she also has this underlying dangerous feeling. Like, I would say, in terms of just genuine strength, like, she has the potential to to take down any member of the Seven Deadly Sins. I'd say she is genuinely the strongest. She has good knowledge on everybody, and she can even take down Meliodas as the strongest. What I believe, but again, I haven't seen season 2, so I couldn't tell you. Beyond that, let's talk a bit about the side characters like Gil Thunder, who is pure awesome with his pink hair flowing in the wind. He's good. I like him. I mean, not much to say about his character. He plays a villain. He plays it darn well, and later on, he admits, and I like the fact that at the end of season one, he decides to go on his own journey to, well, apologize to all the people, because despite the fact that he was acting like a jerk this whole time, he still did bad things to people. Like he almost destroyed that. I believe it was Vanya. He almost destroyed Vanya with that one lightning spear in the first two episodes. But overall, I like his character, and I can't wait to see more of him. And then there's Arthur himself, who it's King Arthur, guys. I grew up hearing about his stories. I love Camelot, and just seeing him at this good in-between point, he's awesome. I'm happy to see him, and I can't wait to see more of him in season 2. Beyond that, I think I'll give my general thoughts. This was a good season for me. I had put off watching Seven Deadly Sins for such a long time. It wasn't because of any particular dislike I had to the show. It's just that I usually had more on my plate around the time, so I really couldn't jump into the series. But recently I've slightly changed, and I'm able to, if I start something, I'm definitely going to finish it. And that's what happened with this. I have finished season 1, and I really enjoyed it. I like the story. I like the fact that by the end of the season, like we find out all of that stuff was bullcrap about like the one rumor of the 7 deadly sins, and that's all been lifted. But there's something more coming out, especially with the fact that Hendrickson is still alive and still ticking, and some bad stuff is gonna go on. Beyond that, I loved season 1. I can't wait to see more. I am a bit disappointed that season 2 is only going to be 13 episodes, but I am hoping there will be a season 3. I mean, knowing how popular it is, I'm 100% sure there is going to be season 3, but, you never know. And, yeah, beyond that, it's a good series. Looking forward to sitting through season 2, and, yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I'll see you all later.